start talking about growing up as a reader. Do you remember the first book you ever read?
I don't know that I remember the first book that I've ever read, but when I was really little, we used to live just down the street from the library in Evansville, Indiana, and my mom and my brother, we would walk down there because it was just like a couple blocks away. So we would walk there and we would get just piles of books and then bring them home, and then we would get to sit in Mom's bed and we would just read book after book after book. So that's kind of how I started, like, going to the library. And I remember being involved in the kids department and doing some plays and different things, which interestingly has not spilt over into my adult life. But yeah, we've always been readers, and we were always taken to the library as kids, and even as we would get older, we would spend a good amount of time at the library. I mean, we would just go and be there an hour or two sometimes.
So your love for the library is a long story.
A long-standing thing. And it's interesting that I didn't really think of it as a career until sort of the end of college. I majored in English undergrad, and originally I was going to teach, and then I decided I didn't want to do that. And I was doing an editing internship my senior year of college, and I had this awesome supervisor, mentor person who was helping me with that. I didn't think editing was my thing. It's a little too finicky for me. So I was looking at other things, and I had seen some things about libraries, and then she suggested library school at Indiana University where I was, and she's like, you could just get in really easy. You could do it for, could finish in a year and a half or 2 years depending on how you do it. Why don't you look into it? So I looked into it and applied, and I started that spring, and I started that fall. So I went straight through school.
Well, before we get too far on your library journey, were there any books that really influenced you growing up, or that you remember reading, or even now that really have influenced you? And
so I was a huge Anne of Green Gables fan growing up, and all of Ellen Montgomery books. I just devoured all of those. I remember really kind of liking series as a kid. Laura Ingalls Wilder. I'm thinking of some others off the top of my head, but I read a lot of classic stuff, Little Women, all of those kinds of things. So,
do you remember that librarian? Was that librarian somebody you remember when you were growing up?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure her name was Susan, but I don't remember her last name. So, but I can picture the library in my mind, and I think I remember walking there, but I definitely remember reading and everything too.
So you get out of library school, and then where do you go from there?
When I finished library school, I started working in my hometown as the teen library assistant. I actually graduated library school early. I finished in December instead of going all the way to May or June. So I spent just 6 months waiting tables, and then I moved back home, and I started working as the teen library assistant in Newburgh, Indiana, at the Ohio Township Public Library. So I did that for about 6 months before I moved here. So that was my first real library job, and then moved here 6 months later in November of 2006. So I have been here for a long time.
What was your impression of Anderson when you first moved here?
Well, it was good, actually. I had been looking at places all over, and had been to a lot of different towns that I didn't really love, and so I actually thought it was a pretty good impression when I first came. I drove down here for an interview, stayed overnight, and then drove back to Indiana, and came back again once I got the job to sort of look for housing and all of that fun stuff that you do when you move, and I was excited to move here. Yeah. So.
And remind people who haven't run into you much, what all have you done here at the library since you've been here? You've been here you've been here a long time.
Right, so over 13 years now. So I started in reference and as a librarian 1. That was my first job.
Tell people what reference does.
Okay, so reference just helps people with research, helps people with computers, helps people find nonfiction books, anything that's really dealing with all of those things. Interlibrary loan, periodicals, all of that. And if you think of the main library in Anderson, it's everything we do upstairs. So that's where I started. Also, usually librarians will purchase materials, and so that was the other thing that I started doing. Those two things were my first things. But then Faith came, Mr. Stone retired, and Faith came as the library director within my first year of being here. And one of the things that she thought we should have is a teen section, and I had experience with that already, and I liked doing it. So that was sort of a good fit for me, and I sort of I interviewed and slid in for the teen librarian job, and so it was kind of a dual role for a while, reference and teen, and that's when we established the teen department, the Gambrell Teen Room, which used to be in the back of the library and has been moved since.
Y'all built quite a place for teenagers to come and hang out.
We did, and that was super fun because it was from the ground up. We found the space, and I actually worked on, this is silly, but worked on the flooring in the space. We picked out all the furniture, we moved the books upstairs, and just kind of created its own area. And then also started doing programs, because we had never really had any teen programs in Anderson before. So after that, I did that for a couple of years, and then the Powdersville Branch Library, the branch manager job opened up, and I decided that if my long-term goal was to be a library director, which it is, that would probably be really, really good experience for me to get. So I applied for that job and was the branch manager in Powdersville for over 3 years, which was super interesting. You learn a lot about managing a building, managing people, just kind of doing everything, from opening the door in the morning to just shutting it down and all of those kinds of things. So 3 years at Powdersville, and then I spent a short period after Powdersville as the extension librarian, managing just the branches. If you think about the main library, that we have a basement, which a lot of people don't know, and that's where my office was at the time. And it also managed the bookmobile and the staff that do the delivery services every day. So
to remind people how many branches Anderson County Library has, I mean, people that don't realize how far-reaching the library is.
So Anderson County is really big, and that I think is the thing that people don't know. So we actually have 8 branches. I can list them really quickly. It's Belton, Honeypath, I have a branch in Williamston, Piedmont, Powdersville, Pendleton, and we have a small library in the Westside Community Center in Anderson as well. And then we also have the bookmobile, which goes to other places that we don't necessarily have libraries. So
a lot of seniors get to take advantage of the bookmobile and stuff.
I would say yes, there are a lot of seniors that use it. We also tend to go to some schools that don't necessarily have a library in them. So that I did for about a year and a half, I think. Time might be a little less. And then our circulation librarian retired, and the job that I was doing sort of got combined with circulation, and I moved into that job, and I did that for 5 years. And I really love working circulation, actually. I love the sort of just the checking books in, checking books out, sort of the mechanics of just the basics of a library and what everyone thinks that we do. So I was managing the circulation department and the branches, which really, it was a good fit with those two services, because when you think about those basics of a library, all of our libraries do that. So being able to sort of combine those things and think about procedure and policy, I think was a good thing overall, and helped sort of with flow and moving things in and out. So.
And then?
And then, yes, I was hired as the assistant director at the end of December. I started officially January 1st. My mentor and wonderful boss Janet retired at the end of December, so here we are. So now I'm the assistant director, and we're figuring that out.
Well, and last year you were recognized statewide. You got a
Yes.
statewide award for.
Yeah, that was really surprising, very humbling. The South Carolina Library Association gave me the Outstanding Librarian of 2019 award. You are nominated by people your peers, people you work with. So I knew nothing about the nomination, and then I got notified that I'd won, and it was really super cool. So, yeah.
And you mentioned mentors. You've obviously got had good mentors here at Anderson County Library.
I have, yeah. Janet Price, who did just retire, she worked here. I think she was here for 12 years, about, and she was awesome. Just really helping me learn how to supervise people and to think about how to say things and talk to people and sort of put those things together. And Faith's been awesome too. She's really done a lot for the library since she's
Hall
been
of Fame.
Yes, Hall of Fame. That was her award.
Faith's Hall of Fame member. Faith
for
Line.
2019. Yes. So she thinks that makes her seem old, but I think it just makes her seem important.
Right.
So.
Well, one of the things too, I think that separates you from a lot of librarians who've been in and out of here is you're very active in the community. You do a lot. I mean, I was trying to make a list. You can't even really keep up with it between the United Way and PAWS and the book club you run. Let's talk about some of the things you're involved in.
Okay. Yeah, I actually really love being part of the community. It just makes you feel more connected, I think. So one thing I do is I'm the chair of the Young Philanthropists with the United Way. So I'm on the United Way board. And then also with United Way, I serve on one of the vision councils for basic needs, which helps sort of allocate money, the grant money, to those organizations in town. So it's a lot of responsibility. And then other things that I do, and I've really only done this for the past year or so, because I was looking for more ways to get involved hands-on. I think that's what when I work hands-on, I feel like that's when I'm making a difference. I used to be on the Anderson Area Farm and Food Association board, and that was the group that did the Tuesday night market in Anderson for a long time, and that was super fun, and I loved doing that. But unfortunately, we don't have that anymore, so I was looking for another way to get involved. And so for me, I love animals. I wasn't sure how it was going to be to work at the shelter because it is an animal shelter, and there's lots of dogs there, so specifically dogs for me. But it was great. PAWS has an orientation. They are straight up and honest with you about how it works and everything, and train you in. And then one of the great things about volunteering at PAWS is you can go whenever they're open. So that really fit into my schedule well. And I try to go at least twice a month, sometimes a little more, it just depends. And I just go and walk the dogs and hand out loads of treats and stuff like that. And I've really enjoyed doing that because they do a great job at PAWS for one. And then
very passionate director out there talking about
100%. And they've really changed that place in the past 3 or 4 years, and you get to see the dog got adopted. There's a lot of good feelings with the number of animals that get adopted and all of that. So, and then the other thing that I got involved with this year was the Lot Project. I felt I really love those guys. They really treat people with respect and like they're humans, and serve dinner and allow them to get other necessities 2 nights a week. And it's just nice to be a part of that and see that. And for me personally, to see people in a different light than I see them at the library. But
the Anderson County Library has been very compassionate too. I know it's been one of Faith's things to try to make the library a place where people can come that may not have a lot.
100%. I mean, people do come in here every day who are likely homeless or low income and use the library, and they're welcome here. And that it's an important part of what we do. I really do think so.
Days like this, it's warm, and in summer, it's nice and cool. And
Absolutely. I mean, today is so cold and rainy, and I had a couple people ask me just this morning, you know, what our hours here are here, and can we stay here all day? And absolutely, you can stay here all day. So, you know, we do have some rules and things that people have to follow, and most people understand that. It's not an issue. So.
you also run a book club.
I do. I do 2 book clubs, but the one that I do outside the library is at the Barn House Brewery downtown, and that's been super. I think we've done that for it's a little over 3 years now that we've run the book club there, and I think just this last month we had like 25 people, which is awesome. So we meet on the 3rd Wednesday of the month at 7:30 at night for about an hour, and we just discuss a different book every month. And yeah, I've met a lot of great people that way. It's been super. It's been really awesome.
Tell me about the book club here.
So the one that I help lead here is the Brown Bag Book Club, and we meet on the 4th Wednesday at noon. And the idea is for adults who work or whatever, that they could bring their lunch and then attend book club. Although mostly we get senior citizens at that one anyway. But that one's been, gosh, we've had that book club for, I would say 6 or 7 years. I've only probably been part of it for 4 years or so. So, yeah.
So what's next? You're not planning on leaving us, are you? You go somewhere else?
I don't think so. I feel pretty ingrained in Anderson and the community and the library. So, no, I think I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to continue to, well, to be honest, we're working on some reorganization. Faith felt like, you know, sort of me stepping into this job was a good time to sort of think about everything and look at our spaces and look at our staff, and are we using things the right way? And we're actually going to start working on a strategic plan probably next month, start getting it organized, and then going out into the community and saying, hey, what do you want to use? What do you want from the library? What can we give you that we don't have? And so yeah, so I think we've got a lot of new direction going and a lot of new exciting opportunities. So.
And for people to join in, all they need is a library card.
100%, yes. Live or work in Anderson County, get a library card, and even if you can't come to the library, we have a lot of digital options. Check them out on your phone. You can listen, you can watch. Yeah, so I'd love to get more people in for sure. So.